Star Wars is more than just a series of movies. It's a cultural phenomenon that has shaped generations. It's a story of hope, redemption, and the eternal struggle between good and evil. The original trilogy captured the hearts of millions, and the prequels, while divisive, expanded the lore in meaningful ways. But then came the sequels, episodes 7, 8, and 9. And instead of building on the foundation of what came before, they faltered. They weren't just disappointing. They were a misstep that left many fans scratching their heads. From the moment The Force Awakens hit theaters, there was a sense of excitement, but also hesitation. Nostalgia poured off the screen, but something felt missing. The echoes of the original trilogy were loud, almost deafening, but the heart of the story seemed to be fading. And as the trilogy continued, it became clear that the story lacked direction. What could have been a seamless continuation became a chaotic patchwork of ideas that failed to honor the legacy of Star Wars. Characters we had grown to love were sidelined or mishandled. Luke Skywalker, the beacon of hope and resilience, was reduced to a bitter and broken man who didn't resemble the hero we once knew. The new faces, Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren, had potential, but their journeys were riddled with inconsistency and missed opportunities. The sequels wanted to introduce a new generation of heroes, but they forgot to give them depth, struggle, and growth. The overarching narrative was another glaring issue. Star Wars has always been about epic storytelling, about weaving personal journeys into a larger, galactic conflict. But the sequels felt disjointed, like three separate visions competing for attention. Ideas were introduced and abandoned. Mysteries were teased and ignored, and by the end, the trilogy felt hollow. It wasn't just a failure of execution, it was a failure of imagination. And yet, the sequels did something valuable. They sparked discussions, debates, and reflections among fans about what makes Star Wars special. They serve as a reminder of the importance of storytelling, of respecting the past while pushing forward into the future. In this video, we're going to take a critical look at episodes 7, 8, and 9, where they went wrong, what they missed, and why they left so many fans disappointed. You know, when we talk about Star Wars, it's supposed to be about legacy, a story that spans generations, filled with honor, struggle, and triumph. But what happened in episode 7? It felt like they took the original trilogy, stripped it down, and said, "Here, look, remember this." It's nostalgia bait without the soul. Han Solo's return, Leia's wisdom, and even the Millennium Falcon, they all felt like props to remind you of something better. And what about Rey? She's supposed to be our new hero, but where's the struggle? Luke had to train, fail, and grow. Anakin fell to the dark side before rising again. But Rey, she picks up a lightsaber and just knows. She masters the Force with little effort, and we're just supposed to accept that. It robs her of any depth, and honestly, it's insulting to the heroes that came before. Then there's the First Order. It's a rehash of the Empire, but somehow less interesting. They're big and bad because the plot says so, not because they earned it. Snoke is this mysterious figure who should command fear, yet he feels like a placeholder. There's no weight to him. It's like the writers just threw in a dark side villain because, well, they had to. And don't get me started on Starkiller Base, a planet-sized weapon that destroys multiple planets at once. It's bigger and louder than the Death Star, sure, but who cares? We've seen this before, and it was done better. This wasn't innovation. It was a checklist of cool things slapped together without any thought. It's lazy, and it shows. Now there's Luke Skywalker. The name alone carries so much weight. A farm boy who rose to become a Jedi, who redeemed his father and brought balance to the Force. And what did they do to him in episode 8? They turned him into a bitter old hermit who drinks green milk and hides on an island. This isn't Luke. This is someone else wearing his face. And his attitude toward Rey, it's baffling. The Luke we knew wouldn't turn his back on someone reaching out for guidance. He believed in the good of others, even in the darkest moments. But here, he's dismissive, sarcastic, and downright cruel at times. It's like they wanted to deconstruct him, but they forgot to rebuild him into something meaningful. The flashback with Kylo Ren is another slap in the face. Luke, the man who risked his life to save Darth Vader, has a moment of weakness so extreme he considers killing his nephew. Really, that's the hill they chose for him to fall on. It doesn't make sense, and it tarnishes everything he stood for. It's not just disappointing, it's heartbreaking. Even his final act, projecting himself across the galaxy, feels hollow. It's visually stunning, sure, but it lacks emotional weight. He dies alone, staring at the horizon, and we're supposed to feel satisfied, but it's empty. This isn't the hero's end we deserved, and it's not the one Luke deserved either. There's a glaring issue with the sequel trilogy, and it's the lack of a cohesive vision. Episodes 7, 8, and 9 feel like they were made by people who weren't talking to each other. Each director had their own ideas, and instead of blending them, it created a jumbled mess. There's no flow, no sense of a larger plan. Take the handling of Snoke, for example. In Episode 7, he's built up as this mysterious, powerful figure. Then Episode 8 comes along, and he's unceremoniously killed without any explanation. Who was he? Where did he come from? Why should we care? These questions are left unanswered, and it feels like a waste of potential. Then there's the sudden return of Emperor Palpatine in Episode 9. No setup, no hints, just somehow Palpatine returned. It's like they panicked and decided to bring back the old villain to tie things together, but it doesn't work. It feels rushed and cheap, like they were throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. The tonal shifts are also jarring. Episode 7 plays it safe, Episode 8 tries to be subversive, and Episode 9 is a frantic attempt to please everyone. It's exhausting to watch. Instead of feeling like one story, it's like watching 3 different visions competing for dominance. And in the end, nobody wins. Rey is the centerpiece of this trilogy, and yet, she's one of the least developed characters. From the moment we meet her, she's already capable of extraordinary things. She pilots the Falcon like a seasoned veteran, she defeats Kylo Ren in a duel with no training, and she lifts a mountain of rocks without breaking a sweat. Where's the struggle? Her lineage reveal in Episode 9 is another misstep. Making her a Palpatine feels like a desperate attempt to inject drama into her character, but it doesn't add anything meaningful. It's like they couldn't decide who she was, so they threw in a shocking twist to keep us guessing. But it's not clever, it's lazy. Even her relationships feel hollow. Her connection with Finn is sidelined, her bond with Kylo is rushed, and her interactions with Leia are limited by circumstance. There's no depth to her connections, and it makes her journey feel isolated. She's surrounded by people, yet she feels alone. It's a missed opportunity, and by the end of the trilogy, she takes the Skywalker name. But why? She barely knew Luke or Leia, and her connection to them feels forced. It's supposed to be a symbolic moment, but it doesn't resonate. Instead, it feels like an empty gesture, a way to tie her to a legacy she never truly earned. Finn, on the other hand, had so much potential. A stormtrooper who defects from the First Order, that's a fascinating concept. But instead of exploring his journey, they reduced him to comic relief. He spends most of the trilogy shouting Rey's name and running around without any real purpose. It's frustrating. In Episode 7, he shows promise. He's conflicted, brave, and eager to do the right thing. But by Episode 8, he's relegated to a pointless side quest that adds nothing to the story. The whole casino subplot feels like filler, and it wastes his character. It's a disservice to both Finn and the audience. Then there's his Force sensitivity, which is hinted at, but never explored. It's clear that Finn has a connection to the Force, but the trilogy never does anything with it. Imagine the story we could have had if Finn trained alongside Rey, if they both grew and struggled together. But no, that idea is left on the cutting room floor. And let's not forget his relationship with Rey. In Episode 7, there's a genuine bond between them, but it's completely sidelined in the later films. Finn deserved better. He deserved a story that matched his potential. But instead, he's just another casualty of poor writing and wasted arcs. One of the most jarring aspects of the sequels is the forced humor. Star Wars has always had moments of levity, but they were natural and well-timed. Here, the jokes often feel out of place, undermining the tension and drama. It's like they were trying too hard to be funny. Take Poe's prank call to Hux in Episode 8. It's supposed to be clever, but it feels juvenile. This is a high-stakes situation, yet they're cracking jokes like it's a comedy skit. It completely undercuts the gravity of the moment. And this isn't an isolated incident. The humor is sprinkled throughout, and it rarely lands. Even Luke has his share of awkward moments. The scene where he tosses the lightsaber over his shoulder is a perfect example. It's meant to be subversive, but it comes off as disrespectful. This is Anakin's lightsaber, a weapon with so much history, and it's treated like a gag. It's tone-deaf. The humor doesn't just fail to entertain, it actively detracts from the story. Instead of building tension or adding depth to the characters, it pulls you out of the moment. Star Wars deserves better than this. It's not a sitcom, it's an epic tale, and it should be treated as such. Kylo Ren is one of the few characters with potential, but his arc is riddled with inconsistencies. In Episode 7, he's introduced as a conflicted villain, torn between the light and the dark. It's an intriguing setup, but the execution is all over the place. His relationship with Rey is one of the most baffling aspects of the trilogy. It starts with animosity, then shifts to an uneasy alliance, and finally becomes something resembling romance. But it's rushed and poorly developed. There's no foundation for their connection, and it feels forced. The redemption arc in Episode 9 is another missed opportunity. Ben Solo's return should have been a powerful moment, but it's rushed and unearned. One conversation with Han's memory, and suddenly he's redeemed. It's not enough. Redemption is a journey, not a single scene. Even his death feels anticlimactic. He sacrifices himself to save Rey, but it lacks emotional impact. It's like they didn't know what to do with him, so they gave him the most predictable ending. Kylo Ren could have been one of the great Star Wars villains, but instead, he's a cautionary tale of wasted potential. When you look at episodes 7, 8, and 9 as a whole, it's clear that they were a missed opportunity. The pieces were there, a compelling cast, a rich legacy to build on, and the resources to create something truly special. But instead of crafting a cohesive story, they gave us a disjointed trilogy that lacks heart and depth. The characters, both old and new, deserved better. Rey could have been a hero with real struggles. Finn could have had a meaningful arc. Luke could have been the wise mentor we wanted. But instead, they were reduced to caricatures of what they should have been. It's frustrating because the potential was right there. The story itself feels hollow. It rehashes old ideas without adding anything new. It leans too heavily on nostalgia, while failing to honor what made the original trilogy so beloved. And the lack of a clear vision from the start is painfully obvious. This isn't just a flawed trilogy, it's a betrayal of what Star Wars stands for. But despite all of this, I can't help but hope. Hope that the mistakes of the sequels can be a lesson for the future. Star Wars is bigger than any one trilogy. It's a galaxy of stories waiting to be told. And maybe, just maybe, we can still find the magic again. Thanks so much for watching. I spend a good bit of time making sure each video is great. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps out and means a lot to me. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.